Now, where to start is always a question. Why do we ask this question? We are asking this question because you might be an organization which is a standalone, small shed type of an organization who is doing only one of the processes. Okay. You might be an organization who is doing probably having one factory and you're servicing for some customer or some other customer who has another customer, end customer. Or you might be a factory located at different places, and from one factory, it comes to the other factory. The point that I'm trying to clarify here is the case and study that I'm talking about is we have a client in Mumbai called Dodia Synthetics, for example. Okay, they have a dyeing unit separately, they have a yarn processing unit separately, or they have one of the yarn processing called twisting, texturizing and all is in one place, whereas high bulking is another place, etc., etc. So they have the partially oriented yarn that is coming inside, okay, and then they do twisting process and then the dyeing process, and then it goes to another factory for the texturizing process, high bulking process, etc. So they have 4-5 factories and the product goes through them before one of the factory takes it to the end customer. So the point here is, Murali, where do I start? From which factory do I start the value stream, or should I start from all? Okay, that will be the question. So you should always start with one factory. Okay, it can be any factory, don't worry. Okay, it can be any factory, but you'll have to do some preliminary assessment to say if one factory is supplying to the other, logically which factory is the best place. That when you visit the Gemba, then you will be able to make out. But the point I'm saying is, don't start in all factories, start with one factory. And then after you start with the factory, then there are several production locations also. And then you will have a whole logistics value chain also. Okay, which means that it is the entire value chain is nothing but your suppliers and their suppliers, your customers and their customers, and even the logistics distribution, everything is a entire value chain. So you start from a single factory or a production unit. You start first of all some of this thing and go through this process, and then you can go to the several production locations on the entire logistics chain. So map the current state, just a quick recap, select one product family, form a cross-functional team that knows the entire process, and start in the finished good warehouse and work upstream towards the raw material warehouse and consider both material and information flows. Here I want to hold and give some explanation. Now I'm using the two words called work upstream. This is why I explained with fish so much about the upstream. Don't remember. Okay, let me quickly explain to you. Whenever the river is flowing, you are swimming. If you are swimming along with the current of water, you will find it easier to swim. If you find against the current of water, that is upstream. Up means it's a little difficult. Upstream, you can remember like this. Similarly, in production also, the raw material flows as a stream. The raw material flows as a stream. You can see it is in the direction of the flow of water. Okay. So from raw material to finished good, it is called downstream. And from, like Vikas sir has mentioned here, from the finished good, if you go, it is called as a upstream. It is very important to walk upstream because of two reasons. First of all, even before you do value stream mapping, the most important thing is to select product family. Okay, please take good notes. The second one, form a cross-functional team that knows the entire process. Form a cross-functional team that knows the entire process. Subject matter experts are important in value stream mapping. Okay. Do not call T, D, and H. What is T, D, and H? TDH means Tom, Dick, and Harry. Yeah, you guessed it. Okay. Now, why it is important? Because we have to collect the data as we are walking upstream. Now it says starts with the finished good warehouse and work upstream to the raw material warehouse and consider both material and information flows. Why do we start from finished goods and work upstream to the raw material? Why can't I start from raw material and then go to the finished goods? Okay, that's the biggest question that we'll have to answer. And books also recommend this. This is my best explanation of this. All of you please take good notes, saying value stream mapping is like a snapshot at that particular point in time. Value stream mapping is a snapshot of the process or inventory at that particular point in time, which means that you will collect the inventory data, which is a snapshot at that particular time when we are observing. So it also means that you have to take a call on when you're measuring an inventory as you're walking upstream. People might say, hey, this is not the representative inventory. Don't worry about that. Get into the details and collect more information on what is the general inventory in that particular location. So the point that we need to make a judgment, that is why subject matter experts are important. Suppose if I see that between two processes, there are 10 days worth of inventory, they might always say, Murali, this is a very exceptional case, which means this is an exception because suddenly we got one new order and we just wanted to think. Otherwise, generally, we don't keep this much inventory. That is why there must be some people who should be able to ask these questions or understand the data, what they have already, to be able to get the representative data. So two reasons, all of you write two reasons why we walk upstream is, reason number one, you should look from the customer's point of view. And what will tell you the customer point of view from the eyes of the customer, raw material or finished goods? Which will give you a representation from the customer point of view, FG or RM? Naturally FG. Okay, that is one reason why we start from finished goods, because we need to understand from the customer point of view on the product that we are talking about. The second is, since the raw material is flowing in front of you, you have to walk upstream. You will be able to connect better data. You will be able to connect the most representative data. But if you're going from raw material to finished goods, something might always go forward and it may not give a representative data. So you are moving against the flow of the material so that when the material comes to you, you will be able to capture the data effectively. So these are the two main reasons why we walk upstream and never walk downstream. Third, collect enough data about, first of all, decide what data you have to collect as a team. Now that you have a cross-functional team, we know that we'll have to walk upstream. Okay. With that explanation, it is very important to find out which are the process parameters in manufacturing that we'll have to collect in each and every process, because we have said here, collect the material and information flows. When we talk about material flows, there are two data that we collect. One is the in-material inventory data between the process. That is a simpler one. You should also collect how the information comes to that process. Example, whether somebody writes in paper and gives physically or puts it on the board, or it is automatically transmitted from the computer and they have a screen where they say that, okay, this is your plan. So this is what we mean by the information flow. What is the trigger or what is the information based on which each and every process does? For example, if somebody at the restaurant is making a dosa, where does he get information from? Let's take a simple example. If he's doing a dosa, where does he get the information from? I just want to see some comments, okay? Because I don't want this value stream mapping to look at heavy. Do they get from customer? Please, the person who actually does the dosa, from where does he get the information from? No, he doesn't get directly from the customer. If I'm the customer, I don't shout, I want dosa. Okay, I won't shout. Who gives the information to him? Depends upon the restaurant again, right? So there is a two ways in which he can give information. In local dhaba, if you say, they'll say, do fulka. The person, waiter or somebody who takes the order, he will shout. So that's a form of communication. That's the information flow to the person who makes the fulka, chapati. Or if you go to a hi-fi restaurant, the information might be given by digital, or they might write in a piece of paper and give. So this is the sort of information flows. Now, this is from the customer order. But then to the person who makes the atta, from where does he get the information? From the person who makes the atta, okay, the dough, and how much dough to keep, from where does he get information? One says from the manager, one says from the consumption, one says from experience, usage and experience, manager analysis of the consumption. Okay, Vladimir says from the sales, average daily usage, depends on number of dosas. So anyway, but the point here is when you're doing a value stream map, now let's come back from dosas to making of the dough or a dosa batter, idli batter, to let us come to the reality in the shop floor. In the shop floor, there are different processes. Each process gets an information from somebody depending on how much they have to produce. Yes or no? Each process gets. So those sort of information flows, and the inventory between the processes, says from yesterday's waste batter. That's also based on your MRP, just adjustment for the raw material, right? Whatever is in stock, based on that, different things. We'll see in production also, they do the same thing. They check in the stores, depending upon, they'll get the order from the marketing or sales, and they'll check in the stores what is the raw material that is available, and the MRP or the SAP or whatever, they do the processing, and whatever is the balance, they also verify against work in progresses. And then depending upon the lead times and things like that, they'll quickly order with the supplier. Now, consider both material and information flows. Information flows I've explained. Material I've explained, it's simple because raw material, how much is there? After that, after every process, how much is the material there? These two are simple. Other important thing is the process parameters. Now, in each and every process, you can collect a lot of parameters. What are the process parameters that you can collect? Dimensions, cycle time, setting time, temperature, pressure, output, inventory before, after, measuring time, required quantity, delays, quality, CTQ, CTP, critical to process, critical to quality, rejection, rework data, makes sense. We will also see, we will collect some process times, and some of the things what you have typed will definitely come. For example, changeover time, because setup times are there, which is changeover time. Cycle time, mostly we'll get. In some cases, people will capture the up times or the down times. Some quality data, also they'll say 1% rejection, 2% rejection in this process, 5% rejection in the process, things like that, and indicate it. Now, you're writing the cycle time. When you're making a Gemba walk, you might want to verify some of the things. That's why subject matter experts are important. Okay, it is not necessary to verify each and every parameter, but as a curiosity or this thing quickly, if the cycle times are 10 seconds, 5 seconds, you can just switch on and verify that. But otherwise, the subject matter expert should be able to understand that particular process and check the previous data on the cycle times and make a note of it. And what process parameters that we are going to select, generally 5 to 6 process parameters are selected, depends upon the value stream, inventory turns, and we will see a practical example also. Okay, so it will be much clearer when you see a practical example. I'm going a little slow because these basics are very, very important. So some of the basics I said, it has to be, you have to start with a high level value stream, means a product family, and then you have to form a cross-functional team. and you have to walk upstream. You have to collect information flows. You have to collect some material flows. You have to collect material flows means inventory details. You have to collect some process parameters. You have to collect other details such as the key raw material, top 2 to 3 key raw material. Who are the suppliers? What is the type of frequency in which we are ordering? Who are the customers? What is the frequency in which we are delivering? Are we delivering weekly, or are we delivering to these customers monthly or daily? All that. These are all very fundamentals. Once these fundamentals are clear, then mapping the value stream is easy. Always draw by hand in pencil. Later on, for preserving it, you can put it in the computer. Later on, for preserving it, you can put it in the computer software. Do not purchase a software and start doing a value stream mapping in a software. And there are a lot of reasons why it can be drawn by pencil. Should be drawn. As you draw, you will think of further information you will need. Drawing by hand means that you can do it yourself, which is key to the understanding of the material and information flows. Drawing by hand means you will focus on understanding the flow instead of how to use a computer. Because in many times what happens when you start using the software, the focus is more on learning the software and understanding the features of software rather than just really going into the matter in which we are discussing. So drawing by hand means that you will focus on understanding the flow instead of how to use the computer. Having to manually fine-tune your drawing will improve your mapping ability. When you actually physically do and move around, we generally print these icons and we stick on a large piece of papers. It gives us flexibility to tear it off and then again rewrite if something goes wrong. It gives us flexibility to move around. It gives us flexibility to take a deep breath and look at the entire map and stuff like that. Of course, you'll need an eraser many times. Always do with pencil, okay?